So we're really privileged this afternoon to have a very special guest, Alice. I'm going to say Alice or Alice, because I say Alice and then other people say Alice and I get confused. Alice Amorim, who has had many, many, many roles over a long time, but she is currently the program director for the COP30 presidency. So one of the key anchor points, no pressure, for the COP in Belém later this year. So we're welcoming her to the stage for a fireside chat with IIED's Executive Director, Tom. So please come up.
Welcome.
Obrigada.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're delighted to have you with us, as Paul said, and just to kind of give an insight to the audience, you arrived last night by plane into Recife, so you got a little bit of an insight into what this city has been experiencing in the last few hours, and kind of the challenges that the communities that many people here faced yesterday, last night, only after we'd visited them. So this is kind of adaptation in action, but I wonder whether you've got any kind of reflections, even just in your experience of coming into the event, and maybe you could just take a moment to tell everybody here who you are, where you've come from, what role you're playing. That would be wonderful too.
Thank you so much, Tom. Boa tarde, buenas tardes. Hi, everybody. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here. And it's not a pleasure just because of the role I'm playing at COP30 and the opportunity to be addressing all of you, but actually because I have been seeing or picturing this image of the CBA happening in Brazil. I didn't have the image of happening in Recife in particular, but actually happening here over 2 years or maybe a year and a half ago. And the fact is those moments where you think of once you have an idea and you try to pursue that and you work for it, it can eventually happen. And it's the pleasure of seeing it happening and seeing you all shaping up those conversations is tremendous. So that's why I must say, like, just assuming this role about 2 weeks ago in the COP presidency team, working in the office of the presidency of the Republic, for me was a bit of a, I mean, I need to go there. Maybe I shouldn't be here, but I will go there and see that. So that's why I escaped, let's say, last night, and I'm flying back tomorrow morning. And the moment when I saw the rain and, I mean, all the difficulties, and say, oh my God, is this a signal or something? And this morning I said, okay, this is what we mean by learning by experience, right? It's not just about intentionality of the experience, but actually understanding that what do you need to do to adapt in practice. So nothing better or worse than the actual real life, to understand that we need to think about it, we need to plan, we need to be ready, and we need to reflect on that, on time, on capacity, on knowledge, on our intentionality. I think that if I could put this word very strongly, I think it's something we need to work on.
Brilliant, thank you. And you have in front of you an audience of people, many people who've traveled from many different parts of the world. They tend to be practitioners working with communities, community members, indigenous peoples organizations, people who are the doers. And I think what's been wonderful in the experience here is to see people from more than 70 countries come to Brazil to talk about community-based adaptation. But one of the topics that keeps coming up that says is, well, the kind of system doesn't work to scale this. We don't see the money flowing. We don't see the commitments in the way that we want. Do you have a kind of a sense of where COP can play a role in that? Or do you have a sense of where, we could give hope to a community that's working on the front lines of some of the things you've just been referring to?
Sure. I think this is a good hook to talk a bit more about what we are thinking and the level of ambition that we are putting to ourselves to make this COP different from previous ones. And by ambition, I don't mean ambition in terms of mitigation, although of course this is part of the work, but ambition in terms of literally rethinking the role of COPs in our global understanding and action towards climate adaptation. So when we start thinking about what would make us happy when we organize the COP30 agenda, what would make us see like, okay, it was worth all the hours, the sleepless hours, nights, and all of that. And we put it to ourselves 3 main goals or overarching goals. One is that to strengthen multilateralism. So we need to work on that. This is why COPs exist. That's why negotiations like the ones that happen in any COP need to take place. This is a system, the only system that we have that will protect our public goods and our global goods and our humanity. So we need to protect that system, which is not only under attack, but it's also old in many ways. So the tools, the processes, even the COP process itself, it's somehow outdated to deal with the challenges that we face. And one of those problems or these constraints is precisely the fact that the solutions are on the ground. They are not here in negotiation rooms or in dialogues made by people that got speaking points from people that they don't know who wrote. So this is a very challenging, so in a way it's a very challenging context, but it's also a very good opportunity. But this is something that the question, and I would put reverse maybe to yourselves, is how can the multilateral system help those that are working on the ground? So we are thinking about that, and this is a part of the bigger picture. The second main objectives we have is to advance implementation of climate action. So we know that we have agreed, we have the Paris Agreement, we have the rule book of the Paris Agreement, we have several instruments already, or commitments, being them voluntary or not, that need to be taken out of the paper. But how can we do that? Why aren't we moving that fast? What are the triggers? What are the catalytic elements that can change something? What are the new players that need to be in the room to actually make that action happen? This is where, for instance, the local communities and the local solutions can have a much stronger role to play in driving finance, in driving decisions than it has been in the past, or at least there is room to grow much more. It's not that it hasn't been there, it can grow more. But to do this, to implement more, faster, wider, we need to have an action agenda that is much more suitable for that. For adaptation, for instance, I would say, and I'm saying in very personal capacity, that the action agenda has been somehow, on adaptation, has been somehow shy in the past years. So there is a lot of room to grow, to improve. There's lots that has been done, and we need to build upon that. The third point is that we need to get climate closer to people's lives, and not just by teaching or educating. I think this is also part of the goal, but actually on the solution side. So climate is getting to everybody's life, especially for the most vulnerable communities, through the impacts, not through choices that can be made to change the realities on the ground. So how can we do that? The whole idea of having the mutirão, for instance, that I assume you may have discussed that or talk about that. What does that mean? This is also a kind of call to action for all the local communities that are already doing this work, but that could do more and that could become much more visible in any COP process. But at the end of the day, the COP is not an end in itself. It's a means to something bigger, right? So we need to go to discuss much deeper the level of transformation, social and economic transformation that we need to see in the world. And this means that the climate conversation needs to go way beyond the mitigation, way beyond the science, climate science, but incorporate local knowledge or different sources of social humanities and social sciences and practitioners and public policy knowledge into the way we plan the next 10 years or 20 years or so. So I think we are very much open. One of the reasons why I'm also here is also, as much as I can, to open, to listen ideas, propositions, not only today, but as we go, because COP is a live process. It's not set in stone what's going to happen from now to the next 170 days. We do know that some things we need to deliver, but there's a lot of room for creativity and, yeah, some crazy ideas as well.
Brilliant. I think we're very excited in the sense that this is probably one of the first times that the COP presidency has had somebody at the heart of directing the program for COP that has a background on adaptation, that has been working on the topic. And I'm just curious about what barriers you think you're facing. What are the kind of things you're pushing against to make sure that adaptation is as central as you said? Is there something that we can do to help you as well?
Yes, I think you can. You are already doing by this event happening here now, and this capacity also of convening a lot of global South voices as well as solution providers. This has a strong political implication, and we need to acknowledge that, because you may have seen in the first letter of the presidency when we were provoking this idea that we, instead of being driven by or following the North Star, we are looking now into the 5 stars in the south, or Cruzeiro do Sul. So this is, of course, a metaphor, but in the end, we are talking about having a different conversation about North and South, and recalibrating the mitigation and adaptation let's say, level or space, visibility, and political signals coming out of COP is also about that, about understanding that regardless, I mean, we are in a very difficult situation on the mitigation front. I wouldn't lie about that. And I think we all need to be, even being practitioners and working in this space, we are all worried about that. And we need to be, and we need to make sure that countries and private sector and different stakeholders hear the pressure to be much more ambitious on mitigation. But independently from that, we need to adapt from now. And I'm actually working on 2 things or 2 ideas or 2, let's say, hypotheses on the next moments. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and other thoughts on that. One is that, what if we had a line in which all the new investments, public or private, they have to be adapted? So when we talk about adaptation in a COP, we are always looking to the past, always trying to work on what we haven't done. But we will always, yesterday is the past from today, right? And yesterday we didn't talk about adapting the investments that we would be doing now. So what if, as a baseline, we could create this idea that from now on, all investments must be adapted? This is not in the COP agenda. This is not in the COP mandate, but this is something that could be doable. But to do that, to make sense, everybody must be on board to think about that. So I don't know if that works. We are trying to work on our own homework so that the Brazilian government and others can also think about that. The challenges are not small in the sense that, and that's the second point, the tangibility of adaptation is something difficult, right? What I'm hearing in every room I go and every time I talk to someone or I hear someone, people say, but adaptation is a no-brainer. Nobody's against that. But if nobody's against that, what do we need to do to make it faster and make it mainstream? So are we doing something that certainly we need to do something else, because it's not in everyday's lives people talking about. Maybe it's in our everyday's lives, but not certainly in everyday's lives of public policies, I mean, practitioners in other fields out there. So what do we need to do that? So I think that's how to make it tangible, how to make it something that everybody wants. It's not about the COP presidency, it's not about COP30 itself. It's about every single territory in the world wants adaptation. So let's go for it.
I warned you at the start that we might go a little bit off script. I do wonder, in the time available, whether you'd be open to take comments from the audience for a reflection or two. Do you think we could have a process, if you want to just ask something or you want to make a statement or a suggestion, you were able to quickly put up your hand, make your suggestion. We won't have Elise quickly respond to each of them, but we will gather some thoughts, and then maybe you could reflect at the end. So I don't know, Paul, whether it's possible to get some mics around. Apologies for the lack of forewarning. Okay, so we have several hands up already. If you can kind of run around to them. We have one in the back, one in the middle, and I see a lady in the middle here in white. So if you can make your interventions short, if you possibly could, and we'll gather some from around the room.
Boa tarde, eu sou Nereide, da Rede Pintadas de Pintadas Bahia. Eu vou reivindicar, solicitar que a COPES inclua o árido e o semiárido também na discussão, porque às vezes a gente fica só olhando a mata, né, a Amazônia, a mata, e esquece também a caatinga, a mata dos áridos.
Okay, we have a microphone. Yes, please.
Yes, hello. Very quick question, and I'm sorry to bother you with that, but if we want to make good advocacy, all of us here, NGOs, we need to go there. And I know that many of us are already struggling with very practical things, accommodation. And so I'm really sorry to bother you with that, but I know that it's a very major concern if we want to do our work properly at COP30. Thank you.
Yes, in the back.
Bom, boa noite. Sou Letícia, do Instituto Caminhabilidade. Oi, Alice. Eu queria saber, no processo da construção da COP em Belém, o quanto as comunidades estão sendo incluídas no processo de criar soluções para a própria COP, de adaptação, de espaços públicos, de mobilidade, já que a gente está aqui também numa conferência de soluções feitas pela comunidade.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Eileen Mairena Cunningham here, indigenous from Nicaragua. We really appreciate that the co-presidency is working around the inclusion of indigenous people issues in all the agenda. But we want to reiterate that the Indigenous People Caucus is a recognized body under the, not body, a constituency under the UNFCCC. And even there is going to be a commission or circle of leadership of the indigenous people, we want to reiterate that the Indigenous People Caucus is the space where indigenous people take decision globally and in consensus. And we want that the co-presidency respect that space of indigenous people that is already there. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one here next, and then I see hands in the front. Thank you.
We make 2 rounds.
Sí, mi nombre es Francisco Sayalpú Caipe, indígena del pueblo de Los Pastos en el sur de Colombia. Gratificante escuchar sus apreciaciones. Somos las comunidades indígenas desde los territorios quienes venimos haciendo nuestras acciones locales en materia de inspirar, como dice el eslogan, en soluciones, en acciones de tipo global. Y qué bueno hoy expresarlo aquí en ese importante escenario, porque desde los territorios, desde el páramo, desde la selva, desde los diferentes rincones del mundo, es donde estamos en armonía a cada momento, a cada instante, entendiéndonos con nuestra madre naturaleza. Por lo tanto, sería en la próxima COP30 sugerir que ojalá vean la forma posible ustedes de articular, por un lado, el tema del cambio climático, pero también está el tema de la biodiversidad, es decir, la esencia de donde nosotros venimos, desde la madre naturaleza. Y que ojalá también, por Colombia nos sentimos gratificantes porque es la primera mujer indígena, incluso de los hermanos de la Amazonía, quien hoy asume o está al frente de la cartera del Ministerio del Ambiente en Colombia. pero como pueblos indígenas, y creo que aquí son muchos hermanos, no solo de Colombia, sino de varias regiones, también poder de alguna manera incidir y participar en ese importante COP30 para seguir mingueando, como decimos nosotros, en nuestros territorios y aportarle a que estas soluciones se conviertan y sirvan para la humanidad, para el buen vivir. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. We will come for a second round, actually. So just give Alicia a moment to respond to some of those things. Otherwise, there's a lot to cover. We'll come for a second round, and then that will be it. Okay.
Yes, no, thanks for that. And thanks for all these questions and remarks. I think I'll try to start from the beginning. And if I forgot some, please remind me later on. In terms of the biomes, I think this is something that we are very well aware that we want to make sure that different biomes and not just the Amazon is reflected as part of the COP process. I must just remember, actually, in a way, that in the negotiations front, we are not addressing one or another kind of biome. So we are limited in our capacity on what we can do that. What we are working on that is related and is relevant for different biomes is to work on the synergies of the conventions. So the CDB, the desertification COP, and the UNFCCC. So we are actively working also with the government of Colombia, actually, in particular, on the Minister of Environment and Climate Change is actively pursuing ways in which we start some sort of process of increasing the synergies. And this would benefit necessarily all biomes. Another thing is as we are activating different mobilization efforts in Brazil throughout the year, I heard, for instance, there will be a Caatinga week, and there will be other activities on the road to Belém, in Pantanal as well, and in Cerrado. So I think it's a big opportunity, given the visibility that we are getting in Brazil with the COP30, to actually make the case for showing this different biomes. And that's also the same case for the indigenous communities and caucus and so on. So the whole idea of creating the circle of people, it's not to constrain, to diminish, to question in any way the legitimacy of the caucus and the role and the mandate. It's actually to strengthen it. So it's not every day that we have a COP in a country that has an indigenous as one of the ministers. And Minister Soninha Guajajara has been working hard to leverage the voices of different indigenous groups as we go to the COP and in different public policies. So she is actually, this is one of the ways in which she can bring her voice, her political convening power and so on, to bring the different voices on practical issues, but also reinforcing what the caucus is doing. In terms of advocacy, Belém, the limitations of Belém and so on, we are very, very much aware of that. We know this. It's not on us in the COP presidency team to deal with the logistics and Belém. There is a different unit in the government that is dealing with that, with Secretary Walter, who's working on this. At the moment, what we are seeing is that we need to make sure that going to Belém is somehow feasible for everybody that needs to be there and wants to go there. So we are working on providing the minimum conditions. We know that Belém actually hosting the Sírio de Nazaré every single year has a much bigger capacity than when we look into the challenges of hosting that looks like. So it's not that there won't be spaces for that. It's just that the prices that are being charged, which has nothing to do with the COP presidency mandates and capacity, it's something that we are trying to address. However, so this is definitely a limitation, but however, I wanted to question this idea of advocacy happening only there and during the COP conference. So advocacy for climate has to be everyday job and every single moment. So I think, I hope we can solve the Belém situation in a sense, but that's regardless, we need to advocate for adaptation every day. Mobility, the last one, if I got it right. We haven't had any COP ever that really touched in the issue of mobility explicitly, right? So we have the multi-level governance discussions, the CHAMP, and all the participation of subnational governments increasing, at least since Peru, I would say, which is something that it's becoming more and more institutionalized. But mobility is not something that we know, to be very frank, how to address as part of the COP process. So I would welcome ideas on how to do that. We do think that, I mean, we are working with the umbrella framework of the global stocktake that was agreed by all countries in COP28 in Dubai, which, as far as I remember, doesn't have any specific points on mobility. It does have on transport, but not on mobility. So this is something that maybe for also the stocktake in 2028, which is the second one, it's time to make sure that this is more explicit there as part of the solution.
Thank you. Let's try, if you wouldn't mind, we'll try and do just another 10 minutes. So we'll take 4 or 5 inputs. We'll do one more round and then we'll stop. So I see gentleman here to start with.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Jesús López, soy de El Salvador. Quiero agradecerle por tomarse el tiempo de venir, de viajar y darnos a conocer todos los preparativos y también dar el espacio para que podamos preguntar. En muchas regiones del mundo, particularmente en Centroamérica, hay muchas zonas afectadas, comunidades afectadas por el cambio climático. Entonces yo quiero saber si en esta COP en Brasil se está considerando abrir el espacio para que estas comunidades o estas regiones afectadas puedan exponer la situación en la que están viviendo, pero no desde los gobiernos, sino precisamente desde la sociedad civil. Solamente eso. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I have one here and then one here, and I have 2 more at the back I see. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, hello. This is Kazi. From Bangladesh. I work with an NGO. It's called Friendship. Congratulations for your new role. Very 2 specific point. One is, yes, in the last 30 years, we gained many things. One of those is funding. The GCF, adaptation funding, and recently loss and damage funding. But we yet to get the spirit of localization there, yet to get the spirit of access to local, who are the front fighters. So this COP actually hoping the whole world is the climate finance or biodiversity COP something. I'm not sure is there any agenda will be included how to make those funding access by the local organizations, locality. Second point, last couple of years, I noticed in the COP venue, here and there, the side event going on, they have their own prefix agenda. Campaign going on, prefix agenda. In your plenary, prefixed agenda. There are some people, they have some agenda beyond all those agenda. And they are very frustrated, very depressed, and they are really all the way from different parts of the world coming in the COP venue, and they are frustrated. We started a climate meeting program last couple of years. That is, come here and no prefix agenda, speak 5 minutes, whatever you want to say, and you release your suffocation. Are you planning a space where these people will come and speak, and this will be connected for the plenary? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just come to the front here, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I am Hortense Traoré Kagambega from Burkina Faso, and I am also a negotiator on technology development and transfer. What I would like to say is to thank you, first of all, for taking time to listen to us. But I would like to suggest something about our negotiation during the next COP. As you have an incoming COP presidency, we did an online call with the presidency of COP presidency to talk about the technology implementation plan. This is very important for us as developing countries, as we need technology to adapt. What I would like to suggest is that we had a last program which ended in December, and we will negotiate about the new program which will take the place of a post-NAP strategic program. So for this program, it is very, very important for us if incoming president can have eyes on it, because we need to link the resources, financial resources to technology and technical assistance. This is very important for us. And also to see if it is possible that you can maybe, as I say, have eyes on it to make sure that we will have enough time and also discuss to have a result during the COP. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're going to take 2 more points. I know there's lots of hands up I can see, and I'm sure you will be here afterwards.
Let's
Oh, you want to try? Okay, we'll give it a go.
Okay.
Please.
Good afternoon, my name is Luisa. Eu sou do Brasil e eu moro em Belém, então sinto muito, gente, eu tenho lugar para ficar. Eu sou pesquisadora sobre juventudes. Eu acredito que esse ano a gente teve um papel muito importante, é algo muito feliz de ter a Marcélia Oliveira escolhida como campeã das juventudes. Então, eu sinto que a juventude tem tido um papel muito importante na luta pela mudança climática, muitas vezes fazendo esse trabalho voluntário, esse trabalho de estar ali próximo das comunidades, com as suas famílias, etc, etc. Então, eu queria perguntar, né, com esse passo assim avançado que a gente teve esse ano, o que a gente pode esperar de envolvimento da COP30 com as juventudes? Eu sinto que a gente está muito esperançoso, mas a gente ainda tem muito para caminhar, então gostaria de entender o que a gente tem por aí esse ano com esse envolvimento de juventudes e COP.
Thank you. We have just behind there. There's lots of people with hands all over the place. Okay, we'll come here first, and then we'll come to you.
I'm going to be super quick. Thank you so much. I'm Maria from Argentina. And my question is about if the COP presidency is doing something about the lobbyists from the oil and gas industry that have been growing number of them.
The oil and gas companies, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then here, and we'll take the one behind. Yeah.
Boa tarde, meu nome é Márcio Rala, eu trabalho na Forest Trends e trabalhando com várias organizações de povos indígenas, eu tenho observado a grande expectativa de conseguir buscar espaços de incidência. A senhora comentou sobre a liderança da ministra Sônia Guajajara e eu vi o lançamento, o anúncio sobre a criação dos círculos, né? O Círculo dos Povos, que ela vai presidir, há outros círculos também, mas não entendi muito bem ainda qual vai ser o mecanismo de fato de incidência a partir desse círculo sobre os espaços de negociação. Se puder esclarecer isso, agradeço.
Okay, thank you. We have a...
Yeah, so great, ma'am, to see your commitment for adaptation. And as we know that for adaptation, we need financing. And for financing, we are aware that the principle of common but differentiated responsibility is very important. And I'm hoping that Brazil presidency would be able to uphold that principle and not get it diluted. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let's go to Anne in the middle there. Have you got a microphone? And then I see 2 at the back, and then we are going to stop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Anne. I'm from the USA and England. Environmental destruction and exacerbating climate change is tied to and growing alongside the rise of the far right in many places. How can Brazil or the COP position itself against this and take a strong stance against the rise of fascism that we are currently facing?
Thank you. You're going to start to regret that we've opened it up to the complete town hall soon, but thank you. Okay, we have 2 more at the back, then we are stopping. I can't see quite who's got the microphone at the moment. Yes, okay. Yes, you, sir.
Thank you for the floor. I'm René Bailey from Burkina Faso. So I would like to highlight some key issues about adaptation, because this year COP30 is the adaptation COP, and we are 2 key issues for LDC developing country, like MOI, means of implementation, in order to achieve DGA Global Goal on Adaptation. Since last year, we start to negotiate on this key issue, but we can't find any solution for that. So I would like to invite co-presidency to push and bring all decision makers in order to have a strong decision in order to have indicator in order to implement GGA, and also about MOI. We need, for us, developing country, we need MOI in order to make sure that our national adaptation plans is implemented, and also to make sure that GGA are also implemented. Here we talk about community issue on adaptation. Yesterday, we were in the field to visit and also touch the reality of community. And we noticed that communities suffer. So the politicians must understand the situation. We don't need to come to discuss, to talk about, to negotiate, or like a tourist. We need to come together. Decision maker must keep in mind that when we come to negotiate for our community. And every country, we have the same issue about adaptation. So we invite the presidency to bring all decision maker in order to have a good action, strong action for the community in order to fight against climate change impact. Thank you so much. Sorry for my English.
Thank you. And we have one here. That is going to be the last intervention. Yeah.
Olá, olá a todos, boa tarde, Alice. Eu sou a Lígia, eu sou lá de Belém do Pará. E eu venho acompanhando com a Mandi a agenda das COPs desde 2027, né, enquanto organização. A gente vem acompanhando mais especificamente a agenda de adaptação e água. E eu queria mais entender como a presidência da COP mobiliza as temáticas da COP em si, né? Porque eu acho que é interessante, mesmo que a gente esteja na Amazônia, olhando para as florestas, olhar também para o contexto urbano, né? Entender a questão de saneamento, a questão de moradia, habitação, e entendendo também como uma dor que não é do norte, né? Mais do sul global, dos países latino-americanos. Então, acho que entender um pouco qual é a abertura que, enquanto governo brasileiro, enquanto presidência da COP, tem de inserir esse debate com mais forças, tanto nos pavilhões, mas também nos painéis da presidência, talvez um pouquinho mais nas negociações. Como é que a gente pode fazer um trabalho temático para poder abrir para organizações da área também estarem presentes? Então, mais nesse sentido. Obrigada.
Let me say, 2 weeks into the job. Now's your chance. Where do you want to start?
I think, well, first of all, thank you so much for these ideas, remarks, provocations. I think that's, for us, it's very important to listen and to evolve our thinking. We don't have all the answers. I'm sorry to say, but we are not Superman or Superwomen, and we won't be able, as COP presidency, to solve all these issues all alone. And COP itself, even if we try our best, it's not a space, a process that is meant to or is able to address a lot of the issues that we brought in today. But we are trying our hard. And we, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are testing the boundaries of something that has been evolving, a process and a conference in itself. It started as a conference, right? It's just an event. It started like this. Now it's becoming much bigger than that. And the potential, the power of changing the reality of different decisions, it's growing. But we need to take care of the very same process that took us here, as I described in the beginning. So I think with that, I would take the humility, in a sense, of, let's say, bringing some of those issues in so that I can assure, I don't know how and when we're going to see each other again from now until Belém, but assure that we will be trying our best to address a lot of those points. I wanted to come on some of the specificities as much as I can. So one is on the question on listening to people and bringing space, creating spaces for people to be heard and stories to be told and so on. This is part of I would say, the DNA of the Brazilian government now, which has to make sure that we have a strong social participation as much as we can. We do have different instruments. We have a history of doing that. I think the G20 last year was one big landmark for this. And we do have a specific unit that is working and thinking precisely on this. How can we do that? It's about creating different spaces, physical spaces or spaces online or spaces in different parts of Belém and in the world and in Brazil. This is under discussion. And the question I would put it to you, and we can follow up afterwards, is what would work best? Because one thing is to go to a space and have your voice, your moment to say 5 minutes or make a speech in 5 minutes. Another thing is to really have those voices changing decisions, right? And this is the way to do that. I still try to see how we can do something that is meaningful in that front and not just create a channel. So I think I would welcome suggestions, but the vision that this is important, that needs to happen, it's given. So the second specific point on the technical assistance, MOI, and all these elements, we are very much aware of that, the importance of that. Again, on the 5 stars, I think we are actually trying to recalibrate not only mitigation versus adaptation, but also remembering that capacity building, finance, MOI, and technology are part of the bigger way of changing or delivering climate action, right? So I think we have one of our best negotiators working on technology as well. So we are indeed investing on that. So I hope we have a good outcome on this, but this is definitely something that is being taken care of. On youth and children. So I actually, Marcele is there in Brasilia. We met her yesterday, and it's very promising to see someone like her leading on this process and bringing this energy, this vision as a Black young woman in Rio de Janeiro, shaping the youth engagement, youth voices, and the spaces in which youth is heard inside the presidency, but also in the COP process overall. So we are we haven't thought about that before she arrived in terms of what exactly do we need to do. But I'm pretty sure she has a lot of ideas, and we are fully support with her for that. I do think, just to remember, that we have a mandate on the ACE, the Action for Climate Empowerment, which is very much, it's a niche, but it shouldn't be, right? Because it's very much an enabling environment conversation. We need to have democracy, we need to have education, we need to have spaces for different voices to actually have a meaningful climate action. So I hope she will also provoke a bit of activity over there. In terms of the lobbying on fossil fuel companies, I think we are not, we have the mechanisms for transparency, for accountability in every relationship we have. That's a Brazilian government has its own process in this. But I just wanted to reflect on something different, which is what is the role of the fossil fuel industries in the transitions that we need to make? This is quite controversial, but you may have seen already also Ambassador André mentioning this, that we can't make the transition without people or institutions that are part of the transition, and fossil fuel industry is. So we need to talk to them, we need to bring them, we need to address the issues that are related to them as well in this transition. Circles, I do have 5 minutes yet. Okay, just to cover them, try to cover them all. On the circles, the 4 circles are actually an experiment to make sure that the COP presidency can have more capillarity and more capacity to deliver on specific issues. Something that any team, we can't do it ourselves. The mandate of a COP presidency in itself can't, let's say, cover it all. So to give you the example on the circle of finance ministers, so this is a way also to build upon what has been done in the G20, which was something quite remarkable, I would say, on bringing finance and climate, environmental communities all together. But that, although South Africa is actually following and continuing some of that work, but bringing a bit of the synergies of what happens in the G20 and what happens in the COP process, it's something that there is no space, there is no institutionality for that. So the circles are, this circle in particular, will deliver inputs that come from the finance ministers to the roadmap conversation, something that there is no official process to do it. So in the case of the people circle, that one of the ideas is also to show that it's not, indigenous groups are much more organized and active, but you have local communities, you have quilombolas in Brazil, for instance, that are still less visible in this process and are also part of the solution. So that's why it's not an indigenous people circle, it's a people circles, because we want, and part of the conversation is, one is how can support the caucus, but also the platform, also on access, even physical space where the Maloca and the different spaces where indigenous communities are organizing to have a space outside of the blue zone, but in Belém as well. So it goes from a logistical element to all the way to the negotiation piece. Let me just get my notes here. Wait. GGA and MOI indicators and so on. So we are very much working on that. This is one of the priorities for us. Actually, we know that the GGA is maybe possibly the biggest deliverable in terms of negotiation for this COP, but GGA is not all the adaptation agenda that can be done at COP. So we are actively working on exploring what is the scenario to where we can go on the adaptation front. So also would welcome to have a chance to listen your specific ideas afterwards. We hear you on the MOI. I think this is on our radar for sure. Let's see what we can do to address that. Lastly, I think lastly on the far right and fascism. That's a tough one. For all of them are tough, but I think this is particularly difficult on the COP. And I'll just say that I don't think, again, COP can solve that issue all alone, but by strengthening different processes that have a democratic vision and way of doing things, by being open to different diversity, by creating those mechanisms in which people can be heard, we are sending a message to the world. We hope to send a message to the world that we need democracy to have resilient climate action in the future. So, and this is something that it's on the heart of everything we do. There is no way we can talk about reducing all emissions and getting net zero if our systems, our political systems are falling apart and we are not tackling inequalities. We are not tackling the social dimensions of everything that is happening. So I think this is, we need to somehow test the boundaries, not only of COPs, but all the international spaces in which we kind of change some of those systems in a way, or incrementally try to change some of the infrastructures. Maybe we need to be destroyed to be rebuilt in a system that really addresses all these issues. And then we have more inclusion, then we have democracy. So we are trying, but again, let's be also realistic in a way. Let's dream a bit about what COP can bring, but also be realistic on what we can expect.
Thank you so much, Elise. It's been an incredible opportunity. And I wanted to extend my personal thanks to you. As you said at the opening, you were really instrumental in bringing CBA to Brazil. And so if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here as a community today. So an extra special round of applause to Elise. And just a couple of more very quick points. And this community, as you've already heard, has a lot of passion, has a lot of insight, it has a lot of experience. And tomorrow we're going to be taking some time to synthesize the key messages coming out of the CBA conference. And we'd love to be able to present those to you after the conference, where we've synthesized those key messages as something that the presidency can bear in mind as they move forward.
For sure, I will be more than welcome to do that, and also to have other opportunities as we go to engage with you, to have other people from the COP presidency engaging. Our adaptation team is very small, I would say. We don't have an adaptation team. We have 2 or 3 people, but we are trying to work as much as we can to make the best out of this opportunity. So we do consider you all as our team as well. So we need you. So more than happy to receive and to actually make sure that ambassador and all the team gets to access to this.
Thank you so much. And, also a huge thanks for taking time out of your extraordinarily busy schedule in order to come and spend time with us here. We hugely appreciate it. And it's been great to have you. Thank you.